Right now, generative AI is projected to add over $4 trillion to the global economy every single year, entirely by automating knowledge work. This timeline shows the major AI model releases following ChatGPT. If you look at this cluster right here, you can see a massive spike in development packed into just a 3-month window in early 2023. If you feel like you can't keep up, it's because the market is flooding. But here is the catch. Stacking more of these tools onto your desktop doesn't actually mean you get more done. This chart maps out employee productivity against time spent using AI. It shows a clear trend. Productivity rises and peaks right here when you spend between 7 and 10% of your workday using these tools. Go past that window and output drops. Pushing past that 10% mark means that you've stopped doing actual work and started doing the work about work. You are prompting, course correcting, and bouncing between different AI subscriptions. To maintain productivity, find the specific tool that removes friction from your day without forcing you into a new management role. To find that tool, you have to navigate the core trade-off of the modern AI landscape: frictionless integration versus data sovereignty. On one side, you have the all-in-one ecosystem. These tools connect instantly to your calendar and inbox, but they carry steep monthly fees and lock you into a single platform. On the other side, you have specialized and open source models. They give you pinpoint control and strict privacy, but they require manual setup and a much steeper learning curve. This is why generic top 10 lists fail. You have to map the tools to your specific environment and constraints. If you jump into an AI subscription without defining your budget or privacy limits first, the time you spend fighting the tool will wipe out any time it saves you. Let's look at the first scenario. You are a corporate manager or administrator, and your primary bottleneck is meetings, emails, and cross-team coordination. For this, ecosystem tools like Microsoft Copilot and Notion AI are built to embed directly into the software you already use. Because they live inside your workspace, they have instant context. They read your documents, scan your emails, and check your calendar, all without you having to write a manual prompt. That same integration allows scheduling agents like Reclaim.ai to handle time blocking autonomously. These agents look at a heavy meeting load and automatically defend blocks of focus time before your calendar fills up completely. This matrix shows where these ecosystem tools sit. They land in the top right, high impact but high cost and platform lock-in. And because they take action on their own, you still have to monitor their drafts before they execute a calendar change or send an email. If you are willing to pay $30 a month per seat to eliminate coordination friction, the ecosystem approach wins, even if their base models aren't the most advanced on the market. Our second scenario covers educators, legal professionals, and anyone operating under strict data governance, like GDPR in the European Union. For this group, standard generative AI is a massive liability. The risk of feeding sensitive client data to public models or having the AI hallucinate facts is a non-starter. This is where closed system research tools like Google's NotebookLM become essential. NotebookLM restricts its answers and citations strictly to the documents you upload. It doesn't guess, and it doesn't pull from outside training data, removing the hallucination risk. We also see open-weight models like Mistral and on-device transcription tools like Granola serving this space. These tools run locally. They process your data on your own machine, and in Granola's case, automatically delete the raw audio file once the transcript is complete. The trade-off here is isolation. These tools generally can't browse the live web, and they don't plug cleanly into corporate CRM systems. When data sovereignty is non-negotiable, you have to accept the friction. The manual effort of curating your inputs is simply the price of absolute security. Our third scenario is the tech-savvy solo creator or developer. You need high-leverage output, but you don't have an enterprise budget. Here, you look toward open-source reasoning models like DeepSeek and AI-first development environments like Cursor. These platforms give individuals access to frontier-level logic and autonomous code generation across multiple files, often at zero cost. For creative work, you have tools like Claude, which provides a more natural writing tone, or Flux for generating high-fidelity images. If you master the prompting language for these systems, you can produce studio-quality assets completely in-house, bypassing expensive external agencies. But the cost is your time. Maximizing these tools requires rigorous quality assurance. You have to steer the autonomous agents back on track and heavily review the outputs to prevent generic results. As a solo creator, you trade your technical focus and time to access enterprise-grade capabilities without the enterprise price tag. Peak productivity requires deliberate adoption. Remember the data. You want to keep your AI usage right in that 7 to 10% window. To do that, use the rule of one. Do not adopt a massive stack of new tools today. Instead, identify your single biggest time sink. This flowchart maps out the decision. Everything starts with one question. What is your primary bottleneck? If cross-team coordination and administration eat up your day, accept the financial cost. Move down this path and adopt ecosystem integrations like Copilot or Reclaim. If your bottleneck is processing sensitive data under strict compliance, accept the friction. Choose this route and use closed systems like Mistral and NotebookLM. And if your bottleneck is technical or creative output, use open reasoning models like DeepSeek and Cursor, but plan to build robust manual QA into your process. Look at your day. Choose the trade-offs you can actually live with and integrate that single tool deeply to truly reclaim your time. We need to stop looking at benchmark scores. Judging an AI model by its standardized test results in 2026 is like buying a truck based solely on its top speed. It doesn't tell you if it can haul your specific payload. ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini have matured into multi-surface operating layers. They are now capable of managing entire chains of logic, code, and search behavior across every department in an organization. The procurement decision you're facing is no longer about raw intelligence. It's about figuring out which model's specific failure profile aligns with the work your team actually does. You are picking the tool that makes the least expensive mistakes. To visualize this, enterprise leaders use a framework called the AI failure matrix. We plot task complexity on the x-axis and cost of error on the y-axis. Down in the bottom left, low-stakes activities like drafting emails sit without major risk. But look at the top right. Highly complex, high-risk tasks, like multi-file code refactoring and legal review. If an AI hallucinates here, the fallout is severe. Forcing the wrong AI model into these high-stakes workflows creates a massive friction tax across your organization. Your engineers end up wasting hours locked in reprompting loops trying to fix broken code. Your legal team misses dangerous factual errors buried in a 50-page contract. And frustrated employees quietly start using unapproved AI tools on their personal devices just to get the job done. The true cost of an ill-fitted model is measured in human rework. Every time an employee has to redo a task because the AI failed its specific operational context, your ROI drops closer to zero. Let's look at the specific platforms, starting with Anthropic's Claude. This is currently the premier tool for deep context and nuance. If you paste 8 to 10 interdependent files into Claude's 200K context window, it digests the structure as a single system. It tracks dependencies across the entire codebase, avoiding invented functions because it holds the entire map in its active memory. This reliability comes from Anthropic's underlying training framework called constitutional AI. By design, Claude is weighted to prioritize safety, honesty, and factual adherence over simply giving you a confident-sounding answer. That strict training makes Claude a reliable drafter for sensitive materials. When you need to review compliance policies or generate brand-aligned marketing copy, Claude stays within the constraints you set. The result is professional writing that maintains a human-like tone. For a marketing team, that translates directly to significantly fewer human editing cycles. There are trade-offs. Claude lacks a built-in ecosystem. You won't find native image generation or extensive API plugins for automated web app deployment right out of the box. Because of those conservative guardrails, Claude will also frequently refuse to speculate if it lacks verifiable data. If you're trying to do rapid, open-ended brainstorming, that safety feature can feel like a roadblock. But if your day-to-day involves complex development or deep knowledge work, precision and multi-document consistency easily outweigh raw speed. Then there's OpenAI's ChatGPT. This is the ubiquitous generalist, currently powered by advanced reasoning models like o1 and o3 Mini. These reasoning models excel at solving isolated, complex logic puzzles. If you need a zero-shot coding algorithm written from scratch, ChatGPT constructs it rapidly. It also holds an unparalleled ecosystem advantage. You get a massive plugin library, API connectors, and DALL-E image generation in one interface. This connectivity makes ChatGPT a central control panel, where you can prompt an image, trigger a database lookup, and send an automated notification, all through an API connector in a single flow. The operational trade-off sits inside those same reasoning models. During long, multi-turn conversations, they have a tendency to get trapped in infinite logic loops. The model will identify an error, propose a fix, and then immediately contradict itself. You'll often find yourself forced to completely abandon the chat and start fresh just to clear the corrupted context. There is also a steep drop-off in writing quality. ChatGPT defaults to verbose, generic phrasing that can feel repetitive or detached. Using this output for external communications requires heavy human editing to reach a natural professional standard. ChatGPT remains the strongest platform for technical problem-solving and rapid tool integration, provided your team can actively manage its conversational drift. Next is Google's Gemini. Evaluating Gemini requires shifting your criteria away from raw, standalone reasoning and looking entirely at frictionless distribution. Gemini's core strength is ambient retrieval. This diagram shows how it instantly accesses your internal company data directly from Google Docs, Sheets, and Drive, without requiring you to manually upload a single file. Because it lives where your data already lives, it offers zero onboarding friction for enterprise operations, finance, and HR teams. It also has massive multimodal advantages. You can ask Gemini to reason across a video file, a text document, and a spreadsheet simultaneously, all within a single prompt. The trade-offs are steep. You are accepting extreme vendor lock-in, and outside of that Google ecosystem, Gemini produces a noticeably higher rate of code that fails to compile on the first try. That brings us to an honorable mention that serves a completely different operational function: Perplexity. When you need to research current software library dependencies or pull factual market data, Perplexity is unmatched. Its strict citation engine and low hallucination rate make it a vastly superior search tool. Gemini trades standalone model purity for frictionless organizational integration, while Perplexity remains the essential, dedicated tool for verifying facts. So how do you actually make a purchasing decision? We need to map these capabilities directly to your staff. Let's look at this decision framework. We start at the top by asking, what is your primary workflow? That splits into 3 distinct pathways. First scenario, your workflow requires tracking variables across complex code bases or drafting highly nuanced, brand-safe content. When multi-document consistency is the non-negotiable metric, Claude becomes the defensive choice. The reduction in debugging and legal cycles justifies its seat at the center. Second scenario, your entire company is already deeply embedded in Google Workspace, and your primary goal is rapid, zero-friction adoption for non-technical staff. If zero-friction adoption and cross-departmental access to historical data are the priority, Gemini offers the fastest path to ROI. Third scenario, your team needs a versatile, everyday assistant for solving logic puzzles, writing quick scripts, and connecting broadly to external software. For teams that prioritize flexibility, those building new workflows from scratch and needing broad external tool connectivity, ChatGPT remains the most adaptable foundation. You need to stop chasing benchmark scores. Define your team's highest cost task, pick the tool built for that specific workflow, and run a 14-day pilot. The only metric that matters is the measurable reduction in human rework time.